Hi, this is Ayan Acharya with National School of Journalism, Bengaluru. Newspapers today are replete with reports about IMF's prediction in a dip in the GDP growth of India in the aftermath of demonetisation. Now, as we all know, the predictions that were made were, of course, 7.6 in that particular range. And now IMF says that it will be in the bracket of 6.1. So before we even delve into those numbers, the first immediate impact that demonetisation had on the economy was a temporary delay of consumption and investment, a disrupted supply chain, and especially the most badly hit part of the country was the informal sector. So I believe all of those factors need to be counted in before such predictions are made. However, government is still sticking to those numbers of 7.6, although I believe a couple of weeks ago, former Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, had written a report where he had said that the GDP might actually go down by 2 points. So yeah, I guess it's a turbulent time for the economy.
Also, this moves comes in for next 1 year. The projection is for the next 1 year. Obviously, once the demonetization, the move was taken, we had foreseen that the impact is going to last, but then it was always called as a short-term hitch. So probably the next 1 year, we are going to probably face, as estimated, probably those same hardships. But again, what the growth rate also reports suggested that the exports might come down, and also the consumption factor. Yes, because of the cash crunch, because of the cash crunch, the production and consumption have come down. So it is going to be a very short-term hitch, and again in the long run, India is again going to get back its old tag of being the fastest growing economy. However, China being just 1 point, in the estimates, China being 6.7 and India being 6.6, we are going to see India back in its #1 position very soon.
Not only that, Neha, while we see in 2008 we had a lower slump, just like now, but I think it will go more further down. For a long term, we would be facing this inflation, and it would affect the lifestyle of the people. At the same time, there would be, the other effect would also be the aging population of India.
I don't think there's anything surprising about the estimate. If 86% of the currency has suddenly been withdrawn, obviously an economic slowdown is expected. So I think this estimate is only reflects the uncertainty which is going to continue in the economy for some time.
Before we even go into predicting numbers of growth and talk about going cashless, the first priority of the government, or any, not this current government, but any future government, should be to ensure that there's a holistic banking system. What's the point of going cashless if you don't have a bank where the person can go and deposit his cash? I guess these are issues that need to be addressed.
Also, our economy, which basically majorly relies on loans, on taking loans. So the first 1 year that we are projecting, the next upcoming 1 year that we are projecting, where India is going to produce, how are we going to produce when there are banks are all busy embossing the money to
Getting it back to the public.
So it definitely shows that there is going to be a direct impact that demonetization has on the economy of a country, and the economy and the growth rate will definitely fall with a fall in the currency and the currency ban or the currency demonetization that has happened. So I think both of them are very relevant, and one should understand that there's got to be a relevance between the two. So that's where we're going to.
And also 80% of transactions in India were made in cash before the cash crunch, and snatching of 86% of notes from the circulation also affects the demonetization. And also people from November, as the statistics says, they tighten their purse string, and after November there is a major dip in the cash transactions.
I don't believe that this will be solved within 1 year, because this is mainly affected to the farmers or lower people like that. So when it come to affected to the farmers, then it will be directly affected to the farming. So the upcoming years, it will be affected to the food or what we are consuming from them. It will directly affected to that. So I don't believe that it will be solved within 1 year.
Also, talking about, since Naveen just brought up printing of notes and remonetization, there was a lot of talk about how RBI is going to struggle to ensure that the amount of money rather that has been flushed out is put back into the system, because you don't have too many printing presses, and there, I guess the official capacity is somewhere around 3 lakh crores per month. So the rough estimate was essentially, I can't put a finger on the number, but it would have taken a long time. Just a suggestion here, do you think outsourcing of the printing work of notes could help expedite the process? Is that a possibility? What do you think?
That will lead to a lot of problems, Ayan, because you see there has to be a lot of background check going on where the printing is going on, and the security problems would actually arise more, and that will lead to a lot of confusion in the government system itself. And there could be also counterfeiting of the, increase in the counterfeiting of the notes also. That's what I think.
Also, let us not look at demonetization purely on the basis of growth rate. It's dehumanizing to look at it merely based on statistics, because essentially a human problem with social repercussions also. Let's not forget that.
Speaking of social repercussions and ways to particularly stem the rot that has followed this move, I remember reading a couple of days ago this article in one of the leading newspapers which spoke about gradual demonetization. Now, when India won independence in 1947, Hyderabad, of course, wasn't a part. It was a princely state, and it was later integrated into the country in 1950, I believe. Then, obviously, as well, a logical corollary is that Hyderabad had its own currency, but you can't have your own currency and then be part of a national setup. So they had to then demonetize. So how they went about it was in 3 steps. First thing they did was they demonetized their actual currency, which is the Hyderabad currency. Second was they made sure the Indian currency was put in use. And the third and the most important thing was that the Hyderabad currency wasn't illegal for the next 2 years. So people could still make transactions using their old currency while the Indian currency was making inroads. I personally feel, I don't know how practical that would have been in this case, but something like that could have been tried to alleviate the stress on the common man.
I don't think that should have been tried. If not, the points that Modi stated about the 4 impacts that he wants to bring in, that would have been totally been a disaster. I think more or less he has been achieved to the target that terrorism has been under control, and there are and the counterfeiting of the notes also have come down.
That's not true. A lot of new 2,000 rupee notes have been found in the captivity of terrorist organizations. So I really don't think the said objectives have been achieved.
But I think that has been achieved for a short-term period, but maybe not for the long-term.
Speaking of objectives, what I personally feel is if you, sort of just gleam through all the reports that have come out in the media, you'd realize that probably, and I might be wrong, probably the main aim was to usher in a cashless economy. And it was done under the garb of weeding out money, weeding out black money, weeding out corruption, weeding out terrorism. Because let's not kid ourselves. That is something that sells. Like when you actually weave a moral narrative around black money, when you use that image of black money, that sleazy, corrupt image of black money that we have in our mind, and sort of twist it around its head and use that to sort of encourage more and more people to use credit cards, debit cards. It really works, as we are seeing. But I don't know if, regardless of whether it's a short-term thing or a long-term thing, I personally feel that they could have actually gone the Hyderabad way and tried a gradual demonetization. That could have perhaps taken care of these these fluctuations that we are seeing in the GDP projections.
The question now is, how do we see ourselves combat this issue? And what do you think would be a good way to bring up the growth rate again and to come to power with what we used to be earlier or with other important countries in the world today?
I think the fact that India is recovering, we are going back to the same old ways of consuming more and more. It itself shows that we will achieve our set targets in the short term.
So, as I said, these are things that need to be charted on a long-term basis. In short term, everything looks rosy, right? I mean, for all you know, 1 year down the line, you'd realize that this Modi bungled up big time. But of course, from what we are looking at, from what the numbers are right now, it seems like a rosy picture. It seems like it has worked. But then again, there's an antithesis to that as well. There are reports of, as Akhila correctly mentioned, counterfeit money making an appearance. Not very, I think very recently, raids were being carried out across India. So it's not like people will not find their ways around it. It would be very naive of us to think that they wouldn't. So yeah, as Neha said, GDP growth is something that we pride ourselves in, and you were saying something about China being, going faster than India. What China?
And also, as Neha pointed out earlier, she said that India might be losing its title of world's fastest growing large economy. But India is still being the fastest growing countries among the emerging economies. So I would like to say that, demonetization was sudden, and Narendra Modi took a call, and November 8 it was all of a sudden. So the government should have planned it earlier and gone back to the 1950s ways of Hyderabad, as I answered earlier, or planned it in a better way so that there'll be no problems in the shift.
Okay. Also, this is interesting fact about the ratio of currency to GDP. The average was around 8.4% during 1975, and then it jumped up to 10% in 2002 and 2003. And now, as you very correctly pointed out right at the start, that 90% of the transactions are happening in cash in our country. 80%, beg your pardon. 80% of the transactions are happening in cash. But now that people are being, let's use the word quote unquote, forced to go the quote-unquote card way, do you think those numbers will be impacted, the entire ratio of
let's forget about the impact, but let us look at the chaos that happened while the crash crunch happened. Because if you go to a restaurant or somewhere and you swipe your card, and there was so much traffic that you'll have to wait for 30 to 45 minutes to get your card swiped and to enter your PIN code. So there's so much of problem faced.
And also the number of people who lost their jobs because of demonetization. Labor sector, the informal sector have been hit badly because of demonetization. So obviously the production have come down, and less and less people are actually going to banks for loans because banks are busy disbursing their money. So we should actually wait and watch for the estimates have come down for only next 1 or 2 years. So and then in the coming times probably we'll see a better growth.
Someone would say it's short-term pain for long-term gain, but yeah.
I think another point we should mull over is whether the shock and awe nature of demonetization is suitable for a democracy, where you're supposed to take into account the thoughts of the people before you take such a monumental decision. After all, democracy means for the people, by the people, and of the people.